What if the darkness next door wasn't just watching, but breathing? True stories of backyard rituals that open doors, of things that leap between trees in the dead of night, and of family curses that feed on the innocent. You have entered a place where fear has no borders. This is Horror Sector. I heard something and peered into my neighbor's yard through a crack. It was not curiosity, but instinct. I saw my neighbor barefoot, wearing a long dress hitched to her knees to keep it clean, surrounded by black candles that seemed stuck into the grass. Before her was a figure woven from branches, like a small effigy with something fastened to it. Horns were forming. I wished to confess something I still struggled to admit. Why does one feel shame in acknowledging a brush with the paranormal? It began last year when I moved into a small old house I could afford. It had its own yard, which mattered to me. The first week was uneventful. My only notice was of my neighbor. She lived next door, yet her curtains remained drawn, her lights extinguished. She spoke to no one. She would only emerge to discard rubbish, returning inside without a glance. She was not unkind, merely detached. One night near 10 o'clock, I went out to dispose of moving boxes. Upon opening the door, I heard a sound I could not place, a low, deep, repetitive chanting. I thought it a television, but moving to the back of the yard, I found it came from her garden. What I did next was not curiosity, it was instinct. I stepped closer and peered through a gap in the wooden fence. I saw my neighbor barefoot, her long dress gathered to her knees, standing in a ring of black candles thrust into the earth. Before her stood a crude statue of bound branches, sporting what resembled horns. Her hands were outstretched towards this effigy as she muttered in a language that was not Spanish. And there was a smell, a potent barnyard stench that filled my nostrils, as if beasts were penned beneath us, breathing just underfoot. I watched for mere seconds. She did not turn, nor cease her murmuring, but she tilted her head slightly, as if aware of a presence. She made no other movement, yet I felt with chilling certainty that she knew she was observed. That night was dreadful. When I attempted to sleep, matters worsened. The following day, my neighbor appeared at my door. She knocked softly. When I answered, she offered a basket of bread. She smiled, but it was a hollow, rehearsed expression. To rest, she said, one sometimes requires silence and a calm mind. She spoke precisely thus. I thanked her, uncertain of what else to do. That very night, the noises started. I blamed the aged house, but these were not the sounds of settling timber. They were footsteps, slow and bare, pacing behind our shared wall. I heard soft, childish giggles, though she lived alone. Then the smell permeated my room. In the dead of night, that same barnyard odor would manifest. It was no metaphor, it was a tangible foulness. I would wake feeling damp soil was beneath my bed, that animals were breathing inside the closet. I searched and found nothing. The first time I saw the other woman, I believed it a dream. It was just past 3 a.m. I lay awake, assaulted by the smell, when I saw a figure cross my bedroom doorway. A thin, stooped form in a long, white nightgown, her lengthy white hair trailing the floor. She did not walk toward me, but simply passed and vanished into the living room wall. I was frozen, knowing flight would be useless. The second time, I could no longer deny it. I awoke to my name whispered from within my pillow. I opened my eyes to find her standing in the room's corner facing me. She was a gaunt old woman with gray skin, wearing the same nightgown. Her head was cocked, as if listening to something within the wall. The smell was so potent it stung my eyes. Then she was gone, faded into the plaster. That morning, I knocked on my neighbor's door, intending to ask about animals, about anything strange. I sought an excuse to speak, to appease her. She did not answer, but I heard breathing beside the door, a sound like suppressed laughter. She has not spoken to me since, yet she appears when I am outside. Her words are never direct threats, but feel like warnings. Sleep well. Sometimes they get into these houses. If you hear noises, do not go out. The apparitions of the old woman have not ceased. She appears monthly, drawing nearer each time, no longer in the corner, but at the room's threshold. Last night, she sat at the foot of my bed in that white nightgown, which seemed to dampen the floor yet left no trace. The barnyard smell lingers longer and stronger now, a scent I sometimes carry with me from the house. I do not know what my neighbor practices or what has crossed from her domain into mine due to my fear. But I cannot deny that something passes the fence at night. It is increasingly clear that my witnessing her ritual was no accident. I feel she knew something had to leap from her side to mine, and it did. I do not know how to be rid of it. I wish to recount an experience that affected me profoundly, one which I still question. This was in 2018, in Alajuela, Costa Rica. It was the 30th of December. My family traditionally celebrates the new year at my grandfather's farm, a time for reunion and feasting. Strange occurrences have happened there before, though it had been quiet for years. That Sunday, the family was dancing at the ranch. My cousins and I played football in the town square after dark. It was nearly midnight when we decided upon a game of hide and seek. We had always been warned against playing it at night, told it was bad luck, that spirits might emerge, or that something might pull at your legs. An aunt, seeing our intent, suggested a campfire and tents to keep us from wandering into the tall grass. By 1 a.m, we were roasting marshmallows. I asked my parents for permission to use the quad bike. The ATV was small and often faulty. My father and I had a method to start it, involving the carburetor. I retrieved it from the shed and, after some effort, got it running. I drove up towards the apple orchards. The property was well kept, with sections of pasture for the cows. The grass was exceedingly tall. The motorcycle's halogen headlights illuminated the trees lining the track, but beyond that was utter blackness. As I approached the second ranch where the cattle were kept, the ATV's engine died. This was not its usual failure. The greater problem was restarting it. Nearby, cows slept in the field. I used my telephone's flashlight to see what was wrong and heard a loud rustling in the grass, something moving within. I continued trying to reconnect a small fuel line. Then, in the moonlight, I saw something among the larger trees. Something was leaping from one tree to another, shaking the boughs as if something heavy were upon them. A chill crawled over my skin. I tried to start the motorcycle again, and from where the cows lay, I heard a voice. It said, "It is too late for me to be alone." I shone my light toward the voice and saw eyes glinting in the darkness, fixed upon me. I looked up at the cattle ranch and saw the gate slowly swinging open. From the darkness emerged something black and hunched, moving slowly. I swear I heard it laughing, a vile, strange chuckle as it climbed through the tall grass. I stood transfixed. I even took a step closer, I know not why, and at that moment all the cows rose and began to walk away. The entire episode, from the stall to what I saw, lasted perhaps 4 minutes, yet felt an eternity. Then came a terrible wail. True fear seized me. I pushed the ATV with all my strength to start it, a task usually difficult, but my terror granted me power. As the engine sputtered to life, I made a foolish error. I glanced back toward the ranch. He was there, watching me, a single finger pointing. In my panic, I broke one of the halogen lights, but I did not care. I raced back to the others. My father was angry, for he had warned me not to race the vehicle. Seeing the broken light, his temper worsened. He instructed me to walk back up the hill with him to retrieve it for repair. As we walked, I told him what I had seen. He accused me of invention. But as we collected the vehicle, I said, "Father, look over there." In the distance, a black shape was shaking one of the trees. He said nothing, only averted his gaze. Upon our return to the family, my father was silent, but I saw him speak with my mother. When I asked her what was said, she told me that what I had seen was the monkey. In Costa Rica, a monkey is a witch who transforms into an animal to torment or steal children or men. I later learned that this figure was not appearing for the first time. It had been seen 3 times on my grandfather's farm before my birth. That woman, that Mona, is searching for something she has yet to find. The last time it appeared was also during a family bonfire, with stories being told. This story truly happened. I promise you, it did. On that farm, many things occur. Perhaps next time I shall tell you what my uncle recounted of the 3 hellish nights my grandfather endured when he first purchased that land. I am Sophia, a follower from Colombia. My grandmother Lala was a witch, a subject my family avoids. She died before my birth, but I grew up on my father's stories of her reading cards and cigarette smoke and performing rituals. My story begins in 2020. I had just ended a relationship when I discovered I was pregnant. I was in Spain, he was in the United States. We lived separately until my son, now 5, was born. I practice witchcraft in Santeria, though I do not call myself a witch. I knew I was cursed the day the worms appeared. They manifested overnight, crawling upon the walls despite a clean house. I performed a cleansing ritual. During it, I saw shadows and heard voices. I recited prayers in Latin until the candles extinguished themselves. A profound silence followed, leaving my ears ringing. I was sick, vomiting until I fainted. My mother found me 3 days later. She said I appeared deathly pale and thin. A doctor confirmed my pregnancy. In the following days, I was haunted by dreams of death. I saw her seated as I stood in a pool, holding a baby. The infant would always drown, and I would wake just after 3 in the morning. I continued my studies and my work, giving readings. I could feel the baby moving, restless. When I was 8 months gone, my partner moved in, and things worsened. I dreamed of a woman with dripping black hair, emaciated, holding my child. I would be on the floor, and she would drop the baby with a terrible shriek. My partner awoke with scratches and bites we could not explain. My spiritual teacher told me a cemetery spell was upon me. She guided me in cleansing the apartment. The turmoil subsided, and we soon left for a cabin 40 minutes from town. I believed we would find peace there, that I was leaving the worms and the voices behind. It was a naive hope. My son was born beautiful, but the darkness had not left. It had shifted its gaze. The cabin was old, its wood damp and smelling of decay. During my first cleaning, I burned rue and rosemary. The smoke did not disperse naturally. It streamed into the master bedroom, coiling above the crib in a tall, vague shape. A metallic clang came from beneath it. I found an old, rusty copper coin stuck to the wood, covered in dry dirt and something black. It was a placed object, positioned directly under my son. His sleep changed that night. He did not cry, but screamed in pure terror, always between midnight and 3. Before each scream, I felt an entity enter the room. The silence became so deep it ached in my ears. My partner bore unexplained marks. One morning, I found a braid of dried hair upon my Santeria book, tied with black thread. When I unwound it, the scent of unburned tobacco filled the air, the same scent from my pregnancy ritual, the same scent my father associated with Lala. It felt like a desperate warning. The manifestations grew bolder. When my son was a year old, a new sound began. Something small, dragging a metal object down the hallway. It would stop at his door, preceded by a dry chuckle and the sound of scraping nails. One night, my partner flung the door open. The hall was empty, but on the threshold lay a row of ash circles, and in their center, a puzzle piece showing an animal's face. I prepared a powerful, aggressive protection ritual. I used a purified cow bone, marked with the entity's name and my son's. As I made the offering, the candle flame roared and the smoke poured into the living room. My son screamed from there. I ran to find him crawling on the rug, terrified, staring at the window. In its reflection, I saw the wet woman's silhouette behind me, her hands moving an object on a string. When I turned, she was gone, but my son pointed to a spot, saying in a strange voice, "Momo, Mo." There lay another puzzle piece, showing a black goat's face. I understood then it would not leave. It was tethered to my son. The night we fled, we packed in haste. My partner loaded the car while I went for our son. His room was dark, yet a cold light emanated from the crib. He was awake, calm, wearing a smile not his own, staring at the corner. His skin was cold and damp. On his lower back, I felt a small, round scar, the size of the coin I had found. It was a new mark. We abandoned everything. We returned to Colombia, hoping the ocean would sever the link. My son grew, but he was strange. He buried dolls to make them speak. The scar remained. Months ago, that murky atmosphere returned. The next day, a dark, rough patch shaped like a capital L appeared on my arm. A witch's mark or a countersign. I do not know. Sometimes I see my son in the garden, speaking to himself. I ask whom he addresses. He looks up with that same crib-side smile and says, "With the wet lady." The cabin is gone, but the entity from the cemetery and the witch Lala, whom I never knew, remain. They are fighting for something in my son's blood. I know this sounds fantastical. I would think so too, were I not living it. I know that until I find the root of this story, it will never end. Remember, the neighbor you share a wall with, the path through an empty field, the legacy of your own bloodline. Any of them can be a gateway. Subscribe to Horror Sector, ring the bell, and never walk in the dark alone. The next story could be yours.